Welcome back. This is the Tech Train series on the PowerFX channel. So let's begin. This episode, we're going to talk about the tri-state electrical licensing maze. I live in the Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware area. This literally is 3 spots, 3 states I can go within less than minutes. The real question is, if I'm licensed in Pennsylvania, what happens when I work in Delaware, New Jersey? If you're an electrician in Pennsylvania, in fact, if you're a journeyman with 5 years experience or 25 years experience, this is just not enough to do work in these states or townships. You must put your knowledge to the test, literally, and take a license exam. You need to be licensed. If you have electrical contractor business, you need to be licensed to be able to run your business and provide work to the homeowner, businesses, and industrial complexes. Each township has different code books. The state of Delaware has its own year code it wants to use. The codes are different. You have 2020, 2017, and 2023. As a person who went and taken the master electrician test for Philadelphia, I went with no preparation, no knowledge of the actual test, but I thought because I'm an electrician and I knew what I knew that I wouldn't fail. I would be fine. I don't need to prep. I have the knowledge and ability I need to have. So I went there. I sat down in a computer. I started taking the test and oh my gosh, it was a lot harder than I thought. I was not prepared. I remember some of the information. I just didn't know how to solve it. So I failed. They won't give me a score, but I failed. That's the first time where I was pissed. I'm an electrician. I think I'm a darn good electrician. I do darn good work. But all that stuff I've forgotten. So I failed. After that, I ordered a book. I ordered a book from oneexam.com. Oneexam.com. I prepared. I went crazy and I crushed it. I crushed the test. The test is, I call it the Philadelphia Test 211 peer review offer set. That test, if you aren't prepared, it is hard because this has a lot of calculations. You got to size your house. 2,100 square feet. How do you do that? You have three ovens. How do you calculate that? This is stuff they're going to ask you. How do I calculate a motor, full load amps, and size a proper fuse or breaker? The code has that, but you have to do it. That's where that comes in. This is the test. This is the help, right? One Exam. Very good book. It comes with a lot of questions to help me prepare for the test. Off of this, I had to use a code book. This is 2020 NEC code book. I had to tab it. I lost my tabs, so I tabbed it with this to prepare for the test. Now, the other thing I was able to bring, because you're able to bring a code book from Philadelphia, and you're able to bring this baby. What is this? I wonder. This is called the Ugly Book. This right here is the electrical references. It's our kind of like our cheat sheet Bible for the electrical person. This right here, man, you got to have one in your toolbox, tool bag, and just this helps you with pipe bending. This helps you size the proper sizing of motors along with transformers, etc. right here. So I was able to bring that in. That helped me with 3 questions. The rest I got through the code book, and some I kind of knew because I did this One Exam book just for messing around. I threw AI and they gave me a bunch of questions. Now, some were wrong, by the way, so watch out for AI. But some, when I was taking the Philadelphia test, they like 4 questions were from them. So I got 4 questions from that. I studied beforehand. But if you do job without being licensed and you get caught, there's some criminal charges that could possibly happen. In many states, performing work without a license could be a misdemeanor with fines ranging from $200 to $15,000 depending on jurisdiction. Just think, a customer calls you and asks you to come down in Delaware and you work, but is that legal? That's a question you got to talk to you. Think, is it legal? What about New Jersey? Can you work in New Jersey? You got a Pennsylvania license or you're not licensed at all. Can you work in those states for someone else for your contracting business? Now I'm going to go over Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is going to be the more difficult because it's very complex. So let's begin. Reason is Pennsylvania does not have one simple electrical license exam test compared to some other states. Delaware, 1 test. Jersey, 1 test. This one, it's local townships, local counties. They administer how you get licensed and how you're allowed to work in that state, that city or township. Different jurisdictions can have different requirements for contractors. One could use the 2017 book, the other one, 2020. The licensing and permits are different, possibly. Some, like in the 2 townships I did work, Residential, I didn't need to be licensed. I didn't know that. I was confused, but I still needed to show my electrical test, my test 211 passing score. I had to give that to them, but I didn't have to be licensed. Residential. I was in 2 townships I worked at. The person having jurisdiction, he becomes very important because that person having jurisdiction, pretty much the inspector, through that township, state, whatever, he has certain guidelines and rules he has to follow. He'll look at a job and you go to one state or one township, but this township, no, you're not good. One township say, hey, you're grandfathered for A and B and C. You go to another township and the inspector says, no, you're not grandfathered. You got to fix all that. So now you just quoted a job without this fix, but you got to go to a homeowner and say, look, the inspector said, I got to fix this and it's going to cost you this. It's got to happen. And this is where you can bring up the interesting question. If I'm licensed in one township or county, does that automatically let me work for another? Does it? In Pennsylvania. Let's take a look. I'm going to share my screen to show you what I'm talking about. For those who are listening to this on the podcast, what I'm doing is I'm showing different cities and townships of Pennsylvania to give you an idea how to be licensed in those townships. Let's take a look at the first one. Take a look. Here is the Philadelphia where you get licensed, right? So what they're telling you is that you need $500,000 of insurance. You need $300,000 for your vehicle, and you need workman's comp. $100,000 each accident, each employee, $500,000 for policy limit. You need to be experienced. You will be tested, which I did from the International Code Council. They're using a 2017 code book. Now, this is where I'm hurting. I need to get my continuing education. I've been at NFP 70 nonstop. I just got to find where that stuff is and where I worked. And then so on. This is everything you have to do for Philadelphia. Getting licensed in Philadelphia will help you. But if you're licensed in Delaware County, it's not going to help you with Philly. It's not, because you still need to do the certain requirements that I just showed here. The continuing education. Just because I'm licensed, if I didn't do this and I can't show it within the last 12 months, I can't work there. That is that requirement. And the different townships are different also. Some are really strict, which I'll show you in a minute. This is Radnor Township, another township in Delaware County. Look, you can fill all the information, business name, contractor, etc. Or your partner. You make sure you have your insurance, the amount, and then here. Electricians and plumbers must have proof of master certification. A license from another township stating master will be accepted. So if you got a Philadelphia license, you're fine. But if you don't have a Philadelphia license or another license saying master from another township or county, you cannot work in this township. That is restrictive. Let's show the requirements of Pennsylvania. All for this, they're saying local townships licenses, no state board certification, city by city rules, and sometimes they don't reciprocate with each other. And typically you need to have at least 4,000 to 8,000 hours of experience. You must take a code exam. And then this, home improvement registration, which I had to do. That right there, home improvement registration, is a requirement. You have to contact the state to request that you are a contractor and now you are in the state. So if you do anything bad or nothing correct, you will be in trouble for that. So I'm going to show you that now. This is the contractor registration. I have 2 right now. 2, one for Tech Train Solutions and one for Tech Train Solutions Service Division, saying that I am authorized to work in the state of Pennsylvania. That helps me work in the state. It also proves I do good work. If I don't do good work, they'll pull that license. That's what they'll do from me. They'll pull it and I can't do anything. And I'll get in trouble, and I don't want to get in trouble. So let's go on, moving on to Delaware. This is Delaware. Contrast, Delaware is different. That is a statewide electrical licensing. You got journeyman certifications and master electrician certifications. There's contractor licensing. They reciprocate You'd have to do permitting. And then for you as electrical contracting business, your employees also have to be licensed. I have taken the master electrical test. I'm going to start working down there as a master electrician. For me to have employees to follow me, except for helpers, they need to be journeyman electricians. They must carry that card. So if you're in Pennsylvania, electrician, is Delaware easier or just different? Is it? Tell me. I'm about to work in Pennsylvania, in Delaware. So is it easier or more difficult? Delaware, let me show you their process. Here is the Delaware Licensing Center. You go to this site, which is delpros.delaware.gov. You go in there and you start the process. You register as a new user and you go through the process. I am registered. I am not a new user. In fact, I've been at it before, so I am in the system. Here it goes. It says my master electrical license is under review. I just passed my electrical license test, so I'm sure it's going to take a few minutes or a few days to get official. This is how you do in Delaware. The test between the Philadelphia test 211 and the Delaware test. I guess it's either because I prepared so much. I found that the Delaware test was easier. It was a lot more knowledge-based, asking a lot of questions like what's ohms, what is resistance, what is voltage, what is amperage, simple stuff. And I asked a question, if voltage goes up because resistance stays the same, what happens to amps? Amps goes up, right? They go together. That was one of the questions. Of course, there were difficult ones, like you had to do square footage again. They gave you 2,300 square feet. You had to calculate what your full volt amps would be for that. You had to calculate that. And then they asked you other questions, asked you motor questions. You had to size fuses. You had to size your cables off of calculations. If you had the Uglies book, easy. I forgot my Uglies book. Luckily, I remember the calculations. Wasn't that difficult. And also in the code book had it too. With that, I passed the Delaware State test. It really wasn't that difficult. That's why you got to prepare. If you're an electrician, if you're not an electrician, you're going to be lost. If you're an electrician, prepare. Go. If you're confident, it's fine. You can go to classes in areas, or you can teach yourself like I did. I grabbed that book and I went through it. I went crazy, relearned everything I forgot. Now I'm pretty good with the code book. This is what you have to do. So Philadelphia was more geared to calculations, a lot of calculations, a lot of trick questions. You got to watch that too. And Delaware, I think it was less trick questions because it said maximum or minimum. In code book, they'll give you a maximum, and sometimes in an exception, they'll tell you something else. That would be your minimum or maximum in the exception. So you got to look for that. Much easier. So now I got to prepare for the next one, Jersey. Why do I have to prepare for Jersey? Because I want a Jersey license. But I found out the hard part, which I didn't know, it's a lot more complicated. Jersey, you just can't take the test like Delaware and you're done. This is a longer process. Pennsylvania, again, does not have one simple statewide electrical license system compared to other states. But Jersey's different. The state licenses, of course, master electrician. But to be electrical contractor, you need to have business test, a test on business to understand business, how to run it. I had to prepare for that. I could do electrical tests. I just got to figure out what they want me for the business side. There, you still got local permitting, inspections. They reciprocate each township in there because it's one state. Jersey's going to be more difficult. Now let's look at Jersey's requirement. So applicant must be completely and neatly typewritten or printed, a photograph provided, also a copy of your high school diploma, equivalent certificate. You have to give your details of your electrical experience in the construction and installation world. Give dates for the minimum of past 5 years. They must have proof of a 4-year program by a federal or state. You must have 1 year of hands-on experience. Anyone with a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering will require 2 years of practical test working. In Jersey, you have to take their test and also business test on how to make sure you can run your business properly if you're going to do contracting in the state of New Jersey. That's what they do. That's what they have. Okay, I wanted to show you this. This is just a quick rundown. So Pennsylvania, Delaware, and New Jersey. Primary licensing structure, local, state, framework. The other two are state. Journeyman varies. Delaware, New Jersey, yes. Master electrician varies in the state of Pennsylvania, but Delaware and Jersey, yes. Contracting licensing varies by jurisdiction. In Delaware, it's the state. And then local requirements, significant in Pennsylvania. Delaware still relevant, like Wilmington and stuff. That's what you need to be licensed in those states. So in the search, it says, yes, you need to pass a business and law exam to get a commercial trade license in New Jersey, including your electrical license, contracting license. So New Jersey regulates that you're required 3-part examination. One is the electrical contracting exam. One is business and law exam, 50 questions with 130 minutes. And then alarm system exam, low voltage. What is covered on that test, business test? Let's talk about it. Business test is contracting, bidding, estimating, contract management and stuff, financial and taxes, regulation, and lien laws. That is what's on the business side. That is different than Pennsylvania and Delaware. So with that, being an electrician versus being legally able to operate an electrical contracting business, there's a difference. There's a big difference. You have liability problems if you try one without the other. You don't want to be a number. Now, if you're doing side work for friends and family, for people who want to save a buck, it is what it is. But for me, who wants to start their electrical contracting business, I can't. I got to make sure I'm legit. Everything's right. I'm good to go. But with the tri-state comparison, as you saw, man, Pennsylvania, Delaware, it's easier to get licensed. New Jersey, not so much. You got to take a business class or a law class because it varies. You need to take that in New Jersey. I am not ready for that, so I'm just going to work in Delaware and Pennsylvania. I'm going to avoid Philadelphia for now because of city wage and other fees that you have to pay for that. I'm just not ready for that. Plus, getting some parts of Philly is hard. I'm born and raised in Philadelphia. I know how difficult it is to get some parts of Philly. I prefer just stay in the suburbs, Do realize, though, licensing rules change. They do. Just be prepared for that because you need to. What I noticed when I was trying to build this electrical contracting business is that when I went to these townships to get licensed, because I would like to have one, by the way, they're like, you're doing residential. You don't need it. You only get that with commercial. So now with me going to Delaware and hopefully working the process and getting licensed, now I finally have a license number that I can put on my website. I can get licensed anywhere because I have the qualifications, but I'd rather have it to put on my website. I already have the PA number. That's nice to have. With that, though, the contractor trap, man, all these fees. You got to put that in your pricing if you're going to start your own business. If you're going to try to get licensed, it's expensive. And now I'm going to start going into the industrial sector, but I'm just doing repairs and stuff. I'm not doing installation. When you do repairs and troubleshooting, you don't need to be licensed for that. I am. You just need to be insured. That's going to help me. Once I get these master electrician licenses, I can have people work under me. State of Pennsylvania, I can have them working under my license, as long as hopefully they do everything correct. In Delaware, though, you will need to get licensed unless you're a helper. If you're an electrician in Pennsylvania, Delaware, or New Jersey, tell me what jurisdiction you're licensed in. I want to know. What was the hardest part for you in getting your license? I would like to know your horror stories, what you've been through. Why is this so complicated? I don't know. It is. So I just want to help you understand the licensing world. Just prepare. If you haven't bought the book, buy the book to prepare you and get yourself an Uglies book. Again, get your test book. You don't have to do with that. You got other ones that you can go with. Mike Holt's an option. You can go there, get preparation, do all this. They also have continuous educational units, which once you get your license, you got to maintain your continuous education. If you don't, you'll lose your license. In Philadelphia, you need to do it every year, maintain a certain amount of hours. So this is a site you can use, Mike Holt. When I first did this years ago, which I kind of lost it, I used Mike Holt. It was very helpful. And here is the one exam prep. Here's an example. I went online. I got their stuff. Here's a video. And then here's a checklist of what you need to do to get licensed in whatever to help you with that. Trade license exam. There's your application and then launching your business. So all that this site helps you with. It's a very good site. Again, it's one exam prep. They're all good. And then you have different sections to help you prepare. Okay. This is telling you what to do. And then you have different sections. If you forgot, this is branch circuits, telling you what a branch circuit is, how to calculate. Here's my practice exams. Let me start the quiz. I'll show you. Here's the exam. Here's like practice exam. I'm not going to give you all the questions, but they give you a question. You got to find the answer in the code NEC book or the Uglies book. You have to find your answer. I'm going to go through it real quick, but this is a practice run for you. Here's the supply, general lighting demand. They give you measurements. You got to change it to square footage, and then you got to calculate the volt amps. Very good site. One exam prep. You saw the mic Holt was very good. Also, they're good options. Whatever you choose, they're very valuable resources. And again, you need the continuous educational units, which you can go to local areas. In Philadelphia, they usually want you to go to their certain locations. CEUs are meant to keep your licenses. Without that, you will lose it. I'll have to start CEUs soon, continuous educational units, to provide me continuous contracting, make sure I'm good. So this is Sean from Tech Train Solutions series on the PowerFX channel. Please like and share, comment, and let me know what you want to talk about. I would like to have one of you people on my show to have a discussion. We could do it live. Let me know. Again, it's Tech Train Solutions. Yeah.